It's NBA Weekly. It's time to talk a little NBA draft. Harris, we have your big board to flash here.
Yep.
Let's take a look at names 1 through 6, and Doncic leads the way.
Yeah, he does. So Luka Doncic, we released a scouting report of him yesterday. You can go check it out on the Chat Sports YouTube page. And we talked a lot about what he's going to do in the NBA and how his tools and where his fit lies in terms of NBA basketball player. Now, look, I love his offensive playmaking ability, his passing, his court vision. It's astounding. He has good ball handles as well. I'm a little worried about his overall athleticism and his three-point shooting, but Luka Doncic is coming into the draft this year as probably the most elite offensive prospect that we have this year. The passes that he's able to make and the vision that he has from kind of a combo guard position is just, it's Steve Nash-esque at times. Like, your mouth is just wide open watching him make some of these passes. His offensive game around the rim is really good as well. I like how many moves that he has. I like the amount of shots that he can take. But again, I think his shooting from the perimeter will really determine his NBA career. He only shot 31% from behind the arc last year. And obviously in the modern day NBA, as a 1 or 2 guard or even a combo guard, you got to be able to shoot threes in the modern day NBA. So what the team that drafts him ends up doing with his overall, shooting from behind the arc will determine his NBA success.
Doncic there at 1. You got Deandre Ayton at 2. The big debate right now, how do you shake up that order? Does Doncic belong at 1? Does Ayton belong at 1? It's a big-time debate out there in the interwebs.
The reason I have Doncic at 1, and I know that all people are going to get mad at me, the reason that DeAndre Ayton is at number 2 is because, unfortunately, in the modern-day NBA, winning an NBA title with a center, the only one that's won in the past decade has been Tim Duncan as the main player on a team as the center. It was Tim Duncan, and look, I like DeAndre Ayton. I think he's the best big man in this year's class. My player comp for him is Patrick Ewing. I think his upside is as a potential Hall of Famer. But the problem is that he was born 10 years too late. If he was coming out of the draft in 2008, he's the number 1 pick, no questions asked. Absolutely. It doesn't matter if he doesn't need to shoot threes. He would have been the best player in this class no matter what. But unfortunately, in terms of where the NBA is today, power forwards, centers, guys who don't have an outside jump shot, they're dying. And I know we saw last night with Clint Capella, he did a great job with the Rockets in the first half, but he was nowhere in the second half. Draymond Green completely shut him down low. So you got to ask yourself, would this player be a piece that you can make a finals team around? And I wonder if the center position is that, can you do that in today's NBA?
All right, so it's Doncic at 1, Ayton at 2. We've got Marvin Bagley at 3 here, Harris. Player comp, Amari Stoudemire.
Yeah, I like Marvin Bagley a lot. I think that he has the potential to be the best offensive player in this year's draft, and I think he has a very fundamentally sound offensive game in the post. I don't like his jump shot that much, but what he's able to do around the rim is really, really impressive. He can dunk on people. He's got some great hook moves from either side of the basket. He can shoot off of either foot. He's got a floater game as well. He's a decent rebounder. I'm a little worried about, his defense in the NBA, but look, he's going to be a really good player to mold into what you want him to be. I think his jump shot needs improvement, but I think that you can make it into a really nice tool. You give him an elbow jumper. Maybe you try to increase his range to about 20 feet where Kevin Garnett used to fall in love, but I don't know if we'll ever see Marvin Bagley out by the three-point line chucking up threes. I think that he will be someone that you can build around down low, but again, like I said before with Ayton, can you win an NBA Finals with Marvin Bagley as your second or third best player? I don't think so.
So Bagley's at 3. Jaren Jackson Jr. here at number 4, player out of Michigan State.
I'm very worried about Jaren Jackson. I have him at number 4 because personally, I think that his upside in this draft is just outrageous. I think he could end up being a really good kind of Miles Turner-esque player. The defense is there. The blocking ability is there. The length is there. But I wonder where his scoring ability was this year for Michigan State. Look, he's super athletic, and he's ridiculously long. Why didn't he score more points? Now, I get it. In March Madness, Tom Izzo just didn't use him for whatever reason. I don't know why they didn't use the second-best player on the team, but I'm not Tom Izzo. I think with Jaren Jackson Jr., a lot of his NBA future is going to determine based off of where he goes in the draft. A team for him that just would be a disaster. Would be like a team, the Kings or something, going to a team that is stocked with big men down low. He's not going to get a chance early to really start. The Magic are another example of this. Jaren Jackson Jr.'s team will be just as important as anything else in his NBA career. He has to get drafted by the right team. I think the Mavs would be a good team for him to get drafted by. He could obviously learn from Dirk Nowitzki. I think maybe even the Hawks would be a good team for him to kind of build around with John Collins. So Jaren Jackson Jr. has a bright future ahead of him, but very, very high bust potential.
Who should go number 1 overall in the 2018 NBA draft? Hit us up in the reaction poll. Doncic, Ayton, Marvin Bagley, Jaren Jackson there as well. Heart, wow face, laughing face, and a like, respectively. Let's continue on here. We've got Mo Bamba, the center out of Texas, here at number 5 on your big board. And I've been seeing a lot of rumors that maybe he'll just be a bust.
I'm very high on Mo Bamba. I think I'm probably one of the higher people on Mo Bamba across just NBA media in general. I think that his potential is really, really high because, look, people underestimate his ability to shoot because what they see a 7+ foot guy who's a string bean. I see someone who is constantly in the gym working on his jump shot. He's working with Chris Brinkley, one of the top NBA trainers in the league. He works with James Harden. He works with Giannis. He works with Carmelo Anthony. All of them have increased their jump shot. He made Victor Oladipo into the most improved player in the NBA this season. So, look, Mo Bamba, I think is going to be one of the better players in this class. I think that he needs to get stronger and he needs to shore up his overall jump shot. But look, he's going to be a defensive force in the NBA the second he steps foot on a court. His low end is that he ends up being like a Willie Cauley-Stein, which isn't bad. He can't do anything on offense, but if you're telling me I can draft a Willie Cauley-Stein and put him, maybe next to a Dirk or maybe next to a John Collins in Atlanta, I take that. I think that Mo Bamba, his overall NBA progression is going to be really fun to watch because I think his offensive game by the time he turns to like 26, 27 is going to be much, much different than the offensive game that he's currently coming out of the draft with.
All right, so Bamba's there at 5. How about 6 here? Michael Porter Jr. out of Missouri.
Now, Michael Porter Jr. has the chance to either be the best player in this class or you'll never hear from him again, and it really determines what goes on with that back injury. I mean, we know that we saw him in the SEC tournament, and we know we saw him in March Madness, but he just wasn't the same because he hadn't played basketball all season long. But Michael Porter Jr., I think people forget what he came out of high school as. He is one of the most hyped high school recruits to come out in a decently long time. He was a fantastic high school player. His hype coming into college was just spectacular. People thought that Missouri was going to be one of the 10 best teams in the country this year, maybe even one of the 5 best teams in the country this past season because of Michael Porter Jr. But once he went down with that spinal surgery, obviously the team kind of fell out of contention for those accolades. But Michael Porter Jr. could end up being maybe the best player in this class if he stays healthy.
All right, let's take a look at 7 through 12 on your big board. Trae Young out of Oklahoma. He was very electric this year for the Sooners.
I am not the biggest Trae Young fan in the world. I think he's probably the best point guard in this year's draft just because this is a weak year in terms of top heavy, in terms of elite talents at point guard, but Trae Young's ability to shoot threes is what has him so high on my board. I mean, look, I can't ignore where the NBA is going. The NBA is a 3-point shooting league. Whoever hits the most threes usually wins the game. And if you have Trae Young on your team, your chances of hitting more threes than the other guys, your chances of that are much, much higher. And I think that for him, I think his team, just like with Jaren Jackson Jr., is going to determine a lot for his success. Maybe he goes to the Magic or something, or the Knicks. I want him to go to a team that is already in contention. I think going to the Cavs would be a really good fit for him. I think maybe, a team trading up to get him, maybe, a borderline lottery team getting him would be great. Maybe the Clippers move up to take him. I want to see him on a team that could win next season because I just don't know if you can build a champion team around him. I think he's a championship piece, not a franchise player.
All right, so Young is there at 7. Wendell Carter Jr. from Duke is at number 8 here on the list, Harris, and you'll see a couple of bridges as well. Collin Sexton out of Alabama there at 10. Kevin Knox at 12. But with Wendell Carter Jr. here at number 8, big-time player. He had a fairly solid last season there with the Blue Devils, and You like him as a big-time player in the defensive side as well.
I do. I think that his overall NBA outlook kind of determines, how does his body grow as he gets more and more into the NBA. I think that he could end up being an Al Horford. If you go back and look at Al Horford when he came out of Florida, he was a big guy, but he wasn't as big as he currently is right now at the age of 30, 31, 32. So I think Wendell Carter Jr., he still has some room to grow. I think his frame, you can add a little bit more muscle to his frame as well. I don't think he's ever going to be putting up more than 15 points per game in a season. I think Clint Capella would be a really good ceiling for him as well. But whatever team drafts him is getting, in my opinion at least, the best defensive player in this year's class, at least down low. I don't think he's a Mikal Bridges in terms of his overall defense on the wing, but Wendell Carter Jr. will be able to cover most fours in the NBA the second he steps foot on a court.
Well, let's go to Mikal Bridges here. He checks in at number 9 on the list out of Villanova.
He is the safest player in this year's draft. Kind of like how people were talking about Quentin Nelson in the NFL draft being the safest prospect. That's Mikal Bridges because his game is already so far along. It's not advanced. It's not elite. It's consistent. The fundamentals are really good. Look, he shoots threes. He plays good defense, and he passes the ball well. That sounds like an NBA-ready player to me. He's a day-one starter for any team at small forward. He's a perfect 2018 NBA player. He can guard 2 positions. He can shoot over just about anyone. He's long. He's athletic. He has a great head on his shoulders. He's coming from a great program in Villanova. He's a safe pick. If you're a 9, you're an 8, you're a 10 picking in this year's NBA draft, and Mikal Bridges is on the board, just take him. And you're probably one of the best players in this year's class without all the bust potential.
Here's an interesting name at number 10, Collin Sexton. How do you think his game translates to the NBA level?
I'm very high on Collin Sexton because I think his passion for basketball and his competition level is just so far and away better than anyone else in this class that he's going to succeed in the level. It's like Patrick Beverley when he came out of the draft, how, no one really knew if his skills were going to translate, but he just tries so hard on every single possession that it just ends up working out. It's kind of like Marcus Smart in the Celtics. He's scrappy. He's dirty. He does all the little things. He's diving for loose balls. He's a leader in the locker room. Collin Sexton is a guy that you can build your franchise around, not necessarily due to his overall points output, but just his attitude and just the way he plays the game. It makes the team around him so much better. Alabama would have been nowhere without him this year. He carried the entire team all season long. It was awesome to see him kind of unleashed on college basketball this year. And if you put him on a team, maybe like the Clippers, maybe he somehow falls to the Nuggets, he's going to be a really, really fun player on a playoff team someday.
Let's go to Miles Bridges. He's at number 11. Forward out of Michigan State, Harris.
I'm worried about Miles Bridges just because I just don't know what's his ceiling in the NBA. What player could he end up becoming based off his size? He's kind of a tweener. He's not an amazing shooter. He's not a great three-point shooter, but he can kind of do all of those, just not anything incredibly well. I worry about Miles Bridges in terms of kind of like a Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. Now, he is a better jump shot than Michael Kidd-Gilchrist did coming out of college, but he never did anything extraordinarily well. Bridges is a good defender. He's a good scorer. He's a good rebounder, but I don't think he has any elite level traits outside of maybe his personality and his attitude for the game. But I'm worried that he's never going to end up being a top-level NBA player. I think he could be a safe pick for a team like the Chicago Bulls or maybe the Philadelphia 76ers, but I don't think you take him thinking that he's going to be an NBA superstar. You take him thinking he could be a good NBA starter or a great man off the bench for a playoff team.
All right, let's go to our final name here at number 12, Kevin Knox out of Kentucky.
I'm also very high on Kevin Knox because I love his length and his ability to shoot the ball. He needs to shoot the ball better from 3, but what he can do from 2-point range and also in the paint is very impressive for a guy of his age. He's a very young guy. He's coming into the draft, obviously like a lot of the other prospects. He is a one-and-done player. He is coming into the draft at 18, 19 years old, but just his body and his frame is so much younger than a lot of the players in coming out of the draft. And if you're wondering what I mean by that, a lot of players coming out this year, like an Ayton or a Marvin Bagley, their bodies are NBA ready. I don't think Kevin Knox's body is ready for the NBA. He's going to need to add some muscle, and he's going to need to improve his jump shot. But his upside is really high. I think that Worst case scenario, he could end up as a Wilson Chandler who, a good scorer, decent starting three, good guy off the bench. But his ceiling is someone like Paul George, who could defend two different positions, has great length on both sides of the court, can score the ball from anywhere, and can lead you to the playoffs. Kevin Knox is a very interesting player this year.
So there you have it. Post-combine, big board, Doncic, Ayton, Bagley, Jaren Jackson, Mo Bamba, Michael Porter Jr., Trae Young, Wendell Carter Jr., Mikal Bridges, Collin Sexton, Miles Bridges, Kevin Knox, all the way down the line, 1 through 12. Your big board heading into the 2018 NBA Draft here. It's NBA Weekly. Cam Rogers with you, Harris Rubenstein alongside. And Harris, we have a little fun game here for the folks watching the program. It's regarding the NBA Draft.
Oh, yeah.
We're challenging you guys to build your starting five. But first, Harris, some rules to get through.
Yeah, so you've probably seen these graphics, all over sports media. You pay $15 and you got to choose a player. But we made our own rules today. So you have $12 to build the best starting five out of the players that we are going to present in terms of their overall money value. You can only choose a player once, so you can't have 3 Deandre Aytons and 2 Mo Bambas. You don't need to fill all the positions. And what do I mean by that? You don't need a point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. You can have any combination of lineup that you want. It can be big, it can be small, it can be whatever you want it to be. It just has to be 5 players with $12 and to make the best overall teams. I want you to tweet your teams at me, at SportsThean on Twitter. Send me your teams or comment on YouTube with your teams, and we will enter you into a contest. Maybe we will randomly pick you, or we will have people next week vote on your teams to see who had the best one. So without further ado, Cam, let's show everyone what the money values are. So our $4 players, Luka Doncic, Deandre Ayton, and Marvin Bagley III. Our $3 players, Jaren Jackson Jr., Mo Bamba, and Michael Porter Jr. Our $2 players, Trae Young, Wendell Carter Jr., and Mikal Bridges. And then our $1 players, Collin Sexton, Miles Bridges, and Kevin Knox, the small forward out of Kentucky. So with this up there now, remember, you take 5 players, you have $12 to spend. So you obviously can't spend, all of your money on all 3-4 players, and you can't spend all of your money on all 3-3 players. You have to have a good mixture of players in order to have the best possible team.
Strategize.
Now, I do not count for this. I have my own players, but again, I do not count for this contest. I obviously cannot win my own game, but I will be comparing your teams to mine, so just keep that in the back of your head. So here's my team. At point guard, I have Collin Sexton for $1. At shooting guard, I had to take Luka Doncic, seeing as he's my number 1 player in the draft. Right. I have to be consistent. $4, so up to $5 already. I have Michael Porter Jr. for $3. I think that's a very good deal. His upside is fantastic. I have Miles Bridges with $1 coming in at my combo 3-4 tweener position, just because I think he's a good, cheap option. You can get him at the bottom and still have a fine starting player. And then at center, I have Mo Bamba. I took him over Jaren Jackson Jr. I think Mo Bamba's going to end up being a better player. And also, he just makes my team so much better defensively. No layups around Mo Bamba. No layups. No dunks. Everything's getting blocked.
We're going to encourage you guys to submit your teams throughout social media, especially on the YouTube comments, Facebook comments. Be sure to tweet at Harris as well. This will be fun.
It is going to be fun. I can't wait to see what people come up with. This is something that we've came up with over the past week or so. This is going to be a really fun thing. I'm excited to see where people kind of rank these players. It's going to be telling to see not necessarily, the overall teams that people are coming up with, but who do people choose over others? Do you choose Marvin Bagley over DeAndre Ayton maybe? Who do you choose between Mo Bamba and Jaren Jackson? Trae Young or Collin Sexton? Which Bridges player do you go with? A lot of different options for you, and then you have a lot of other great players on there as well.